Hello.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. I was at that premiere last night and
Right?
I've never seen anything like that before. It was amazing.
I think the word is gobsmacked.
Yes, I mean, just first of all, I was like, all this cosplay is incredible.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
But then, like, first of all, thank you for taking the time, by the way.
Oh yeah, no problem. No
I'm
problem.
I'm just blown away by this series. Like, as a massive fan of the like original animated series, it's nerve-wracking, right? Like I was
Sure.
cautiously
Yeah.
optimistic.
Very precious about what's yeah.
Exactly. And then I cried multiple times just from sheer like they got it right. They got it right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I've got to know for you when you first even like got the scripts and saw stuff and then seeing it last night, like what was your reaction?
I mean, I didn't, I got bits of script.
Oh,
So
right, yeah.
I knew what I was in. And I knew that it was funny. But the other thing about Morph is, Morph is kind of a collaborative character because he's a shapeshifter. So like I voice him, a bunch of other people voice him whenever
Mm-hmm.
he's them, like whatever. So I wasn't even sure like what level I appeared in. So it was such a surprise. It was um yeah, it was really, really just beautiful. And not only as a like, wow, they got it right, as you said, but also there's just so many emotional moments. Like even my husband is he's a Broadway guy. He is not a comic book person at all. And he was like, what?
The drama.
I know. He was so into it. It hits on so many levels.
Yeah, it's crazy how much they've shoved into the first three episodes. Like I felt like it's
But
go, go, go.
wasn't that always the thing with the original series where it was just like, you know, it would always amaze me that we'd start at one point and then 30 minutes later be like, oh my God, we just covered like War and Peace. Like there's so much that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much they cram in.
Oh, it's insane. And it's just so good. And of course we get the classic cliffhangers every episode, which I love.
Hmm.
But I've got to talk to you about Morph because I love Morph. I always have loved Morph. But how like you were talking about like you get the script, so you don't even know like would you know who Morph was going to be turning into in moments, or did you?
Certain times, yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, there were a couple times where, without naming any names,
I know.
there are some characters he turns into that aren't established yet.
I know. I was like
Um,
screaming.
so, I would be the one that would do like a grunt or like a or like something, to like
Yeah.
sort of fill that. So I would know like, oh yeah, doing that, doing that, doing that. But then there was other parts that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was them, like
I know. So that is kind of cool for you to watch and see it all like play out because you didn't even know some of it.
yeah, no, it is, and I'm kind of glad because as a fan, it was just nice to be just absolutely shocked.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, besides like the obvious, like it's the X-Men, but like what made you really want to be a part of this? Because was it the character as well?
I mean, I think for starters, it was just X-Men as a brand. I actually didn't really grow up with comic books, and I didn't really watch the show. I
Really?
well, this is why. So by the time I would get home from school, I would sit down on the couch, I would turn on the TV, and I would see the end credits of
Mm.
X-Men because I was sitting down to watch the Power Rangers, which was
Yeah. Okay, that's very fair.
yeah, that was my thing. But once the X-Men movies came out, I became obsessed. And I was doing, I mean, this was before Wikipedia existed, but once it did, I would be doing deep dives, be like, wait a minute, who's that character and where did they come? Kitty Pride? Tell me more. Like, and
Yes.
I would,
I love Kitty.
do deep dives of just like finding out. So I kind of back-ended comic books and the series where I was finding out everything that was happening, but in reverse by being so intrigued by what was happening in the movies. And that was true of the MCU. And I mean, I'm a huge comic book movie fan. And now that I've actually rewatched the X-Men series, I've been like, oh my God, I loved Morph even before I was really familiar with him as a character, just because he has such a tragic backstory
Mm-hmm.
that he masks with humor. He's known for the giggle, like he's the man with
Yeah.
the laughs, and um, I really identified as a queer person with being somebody who's experienced trauma and covering it up with humor. Like it's a very universal truth for a lot of us. So I loved that part of him. And I also like being comic relief. Like
I know.
yeah,
It's gonna
it's
be
always
fun.
yeah. So getting into, just auditioning for it, that was exciting. But then seeing the directions that the character goes in, being so funny and just being so dynamic, yeah, it's he's so rich. He's even more than I expected.
Yeah, and I feel like episode 3 is where we kind of got to see even a little more of him and more of stuff. So I was very excited. I mean,
Maybe
I can't
sure.
wait
I
to see
don't know
what
what
goes
you're
from
talking
here.
about.
I'm like, come on, you guys give us a little bit, like give us more.
Yeah, no, I was looking at my watch when the third episode ended last night. I'm like, we've got 5 hours. We can watch all of them, right?
I know.
Like,
I'm like, guys, I mean, it was insane. And I love how, like, after last night when everybody left, everyone was just standing in front of the theater talking, like everybody. No one wanted to leave. It was
so much buzz. Yeah.
now, was that like the first time you guys were all together?
Yes.
It was?
I mean, so me and a couple of the newer cast, we have a little text chain going on,
Mhm.
which we just added Guy, who is Sunspot, to last night because that was the
Yes.
first time we met him. We're like, you need to be on the text chain.
Yeah.
Um, but because we're like, there's the half of the cast who is the older guard who also lives mostly in Canada, and then there's those of us that actually live in LA. So we just wanted to know each other to be like, we need to hang out. We need to,
Yeah.
but this was the first time that we actually all got to hang out and see each other in person, which is because I mean, this is my booth back here, this blue
Yeah.
thing. This
That's
this is
crazy.
where all the Xmen magic happened for me. So,
I love
from
it.
the audition to the callback to the record, everything. So it's so nice to get out of the booth and actually meet everybody, including like I mean, this was my first time meeting Jake, and the writers, the producers,
Yeah.
the artists. It was so neat, and so many of them were like, "I'm usually on the Zoom call when you record, but I'm like in the back corner, but I'm there," and I'm like, "Well, it's so nice to see your face
I
and get to know
know.
you."
Oh,
Yeah,
it's so crazy. I love that so much. One of my favorite things about this was that it really feels like it's from 97, but like updated, but like not really. Like it's hard to describe, right?
for sure. I mean, the fashion is so on
Uh,
point.
the
It
fashion
is
is
so
amazing.
90s.
When they were at the club, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible.
What? Who?
I mean, when they were, yeah.
But yeah, but it's I think what's great about it is I was talking with somebody last night and we were talking about how it strikes the balance between paying such specific homage to the original while also, the original was kind of created on a shoestring budget. And this sort of takes like what everybody imagined could be possible and be like, well, let's just do it. Let's just make that happen and just blows it up. And yeah, it's a dream maker. It is a dream maker.
I mean, I didn't hear one person have any negative thing to say. Like we were all like, I literally have no notes on this. It's
There was one person, they were thrown out. No.
yeah. They kicked him out right away.
Yeah, no, we didn't like that person at
No.
all. No, no, same. There was nothing. It was yeah, nothing but positive.
It's incredible. And what I love about this too is it feels like, and I'm curious your thoughts, but it feels like someone can jump into this and not have seen the original. You know what I mean? They catch you up enough and it's not so connected to it where you'd be lost and you'd have to go back and watch all the others.
Yeah, and well, I think they also do a really good job of, I mean, even within the course of the episode, sort of harkening back to what has happened before, so that
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh, okay, I get where this person is, or this person's doing, or why they do this, or whatever. But my husband, who he's a musical theater guy, he was not he knew about the X-Men show, it was on while he was in high school, but he didn't really watch it, but he was very invested, and he followed everything. He was just, he was very much on the edge of his seat by the end of the third episode, being like, what happens next? So
I me
yeah, no,
too.
I agree. I think anybody, no matter where they're at in their X-Men fandom, can just pick up.
Yeah, and that's what I love so much about this, because I'm hoping it brings a lot of people to go back and watch the others, which are on Disney Plus as well, so they can. But I just did a rewatch with my daughters, 11 and 12, and I brought my 11-year-old yesterday, and she was crying and she was cheering and she was loving it. And I was like, I get to talk to Morph tomorrow. And so she told me I had to tell you hello and that she thought you were amazing. So
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
very
know,
exciting.
but I've got to know what it's because the thing I think that's so cool about Morph is that we do get to see a lot of characters through Morph,
Hmm.
which are very exciting that I can't talk about, but I wish I could because there's
Hmm.
so many. But like, what does
Hmm.
that mean to you? That's got to be exciting to know you're the key to like so many of these favorites coming to the screen.
Well, I just love it being collaborative. Like he's a collaborative character because, without getting into specifics about who or why, there were certain people in the cast that I turn into, and they're voicing
Yeah.
me. And it's neat to see what their interpretation of my version of Morph is, and and how he becomes this like character we all sort of share in a way, and I'm just sort of the axis of
Mhm.
of the bicycle wheel. So it's neat. It is really cool. And of course, it's always neat to just see what comes next. Like, what's the next thing he's going to turn into. It's cool.
I know it's got to be so fun. And you're right, because it is when it's those other characters, it is like different. They're not like their character. You can tell the things they say and the way it's different, which is like, it just makes it all come together so well. And I loved it so much.
I just say, like, if you hear that character, but they're doing it in a really snarky, sort of sarcastic point of view, it's me.
I know. Like, and I know I can't say, but the first time we saw Morph, I knew, I mean, obviously, I think most people right away were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be Morph. And it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. It was so exciting.
Right.
So just congratulations on everything. And thank you so much for your time. This series is just, I cannot wait for more. I'm dying for more.
Yeah,
So good.
no, same. I can't believe I have
Amazing.
to wait 3 weeks until I get a new episode.
Right? I'm like, that's the worst part about like, it's exciting. You get to see three, but then you're like, oh no, I have to
But I
wait.
will say the nice thing is that now I get to rewatch them again look, I loved watching with an audience because you got to hear everybody's laughter, but now I want to be like, shh, 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 I want to hear everything they say.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
there were a couple lines that I'm like, I have no idea what that person
No
just
idea. No idea.
said.
So much
Okay.
laughter, so much cheering. Yeah, it was cool.
It was great. I mean, it's just all come together so perfectly, and just I'm just so happy that it feels like it has honored what we have had, and bringing something new. And it's so exciting. It's so exciting.
For sure.
Awesome.